6 am saw the alarm ringing and my wife, Anita, and I woke up to begin our day. As I eased myself upright from the bed and let my feet touch the floor, a groan emerged from me. "Why so glum? Sounds like you've got the blues," she joked as she headed towards the bathroom. Given the events of last night, I felt old indeed, hearing her laughter reverberate in the bathroom as I recalled our intimate moments. The night had ended on a sensual ah. With Anita embarking on a week-long business trip, leaving me home alone, I wasn't exactly looking forward to it. The sound of the running shower lured me to join her, but memories of the previous night's exertions held me back. Upon her return to the bedroom, she was cheerful, in stark contrast to my melancholic self. She urged me to shake off my gloom and start the day, saying, "Come on, old-timer, rise and shine. Get up and go." 2 income sources are required to cover the mortgage on this residence, so I agreed. I'll relocate and headed to the bathroom for my daily routine. Later, we convened downstairs for breakfast before she left for the airport, and I went to work. Anita, an attorney, along with me, worked at a mid-sized manufacturing plant in St. Louis. She excelled in negotiations and often traveled off-site with teams. This specific journey was about finalizing a new subcontract with a significant aerospace company in Denver. She usually undertook several trips a year for similar negotiations, absent for at least a week each time. At 35, she had graduated magna cum laude from the State University 12 years ago, standing at 5 feet 4 inches tall and weighing 125 pounds, with dimensions of 34-24-35. I'm Jack Fillmore, age 37, an engineer in the same company as my spouse. At 6 feet 1 inch tall and 165 pounds, I maintain physical fitness through regular workouts. We both delighted in playing golf, frequently creating a group of 4 with companions. Our paths crossed at a company gathering, where I instantly fell in love. It appeared to be mutual, as following a rapid courtship, we wed 6 months later. Now, we've been married for 7 years and recently purchased the home we inhabit. 3 months ago, it was the house where we planned to start our family, and Anita stopped taking birth control pills upon her return from this trip. We were ecstatic about having children, with Anita intending to be a stay-at-home mom until the kids started school. Our families, residing in the vicinity, were also looking forward to our family growth. After breakfast, I loaded Anita's luggage into her car and shared a goodbye kiss. Her eyes filled with tears as she drove away. I voiced my desire for our future travels to cease, thus eliminating such farewells. She agreed, expressing her own dislike for partings, and I comforted her by saying that I felt the same way. I had suggested meeting her for takeouts on Friday night so she could relax, which she agreed to with a "sounds good." Bye. As she drove off, I headed into the house to prepare for work. Upon arrival at the office, I climbed up to the engineering department, grabbed coffee from the break room, and settled at my desk. Not long after, my phone rang, revealing it was Fillmore. My boss, Evan, asked me to step into his office because he remembered me saying last Friday that Anita would be away this week. He then offered an opportunity. Gil Hawkins, our California-based field service engineer, was indisposed and unable to handle a customer issue regarding one of our models in San Jose. After discussing the model with Evan, he proposed a trip to San Jose for an inspection. Agreeing to his suggestion, I mentioned that work was quiet and I had planned to work from home this week. Evan suggested I ask Kathy to arrange my travel arrangements and contact the customer about my visit and the issue at hand. Boosted by newfound energy, I informed Kathy of my flight and accommodation requirements at her desk. Later, I called the customer from my workspace to learn about their problem before heading home to prepare for my journey. En route, an idea surfaced in my mind. If I completed my tasks promptly, I could make a surprise visit to Denver en route home. The thought of spending a few days with my wife in Denver grew more enticing. Waiting at the airport for my flight, I tried calling Anita's cell phone, but didn't receive an answer. Left a message saying I'd be staying with family for a couple of days, reachable on cell during evenings. Everything went smoothly. Found myself at the client's site Tuesday morning, made needed equipment modifications, had it operating well by afternoon. Headed back to hotel, phoned airline to book a flight to Denver at 9 p.m. Mountain Time. Checked out of San Jose Hotel and traveled to SFO Airport for dinner. Anita called during mealtime on cell. We chatted briefly. She asked about my family, to which I lied about being with them. She reported progress in negotiations, but was tired, planning a quiet night at her hotel. We ended call with love expressions, then I boarded 9:45 p.m. flight. At Anita's hotel suite, I was given access with identity verification. Upon entering silently, her suite revealed a lit desk area and a closed laptop on it. However, Anita was nowhere to be found. Her room was inspected thoroughly, empty bedroom and bathroom. Assuming she hadn't returned yet, I decided to wait or check the lounge for her. Noticing an open door to the adjoining suite, I silently entered its living room, finding no one there. Baffled, I ventured into the room, only to hear a groan from the bedroom. My stomach tightened and I broke out in a cold sweat as I cautiously moved towards the door. Although my heart raced, my breath momentarily halted. In the dimly lit room, Anita was naked and interacting with an anonymous man. Impulsively wanting to intervene, I instead suppressed my emotions and retreated from the door. Returning to her suite, I retrieved my digital camera from my travel bag, initially intended for souvenir photos, and then snapped several images of the bed scene under dim light conditions without disturbing them. Deeply engrossed in their activities, they didn't notice their surroundings or me. In the table, I found an open briefcase with a business card labeled Sam Harris, our company's chief negotiator. I took the card and later connected my camera to her laptop using a cable I carried, transferring the photos. As both our laptops shared the same photo application, I swiftly transferred a picture from my camera onto hers as a desktop backdrop. I subsequently stowed my camera away in my travel bag and discreetly departed her suite, hearing her reach climax prior to my exit. Overcome with emotion but keeping my composure, I approached the reception desk and relinquished the access card. Contacting the airline, I learned a 6:30 a.m. flight was available, ensuring a 9:30 a.m. arrival in St. Louis. With hope, this timing would align with Anita's laptop usage at the negotiating table, hinting at her awareness of my presence and the potential dissolution of our marriage. Unable to sleep upon my return to the airport, I checked into a nearby motel, replaying the distressing memory from her hotel room in my mind, tears streaming down my face as I mourned my pain. Leaving the motel at 5 a.m., I had drained my tears, determined to end our marriage promptly. Upon reaching St. Louis, my cell phone started ringing. As I got into my car to identify the caller, I saw it was Anita. I switched it off and headed home. Upon entering the house, the phone rang again, but the caller ID displayed her name once more. I let it go to voicemail, only to hear her sobbing on the message. She begged me to call her immediately, saying she needed to speak with me urgently. I disregarded her tearful plea, changed my clothes, rented a U-Haul, and went home to begin packing. If my estimates were accurate, she would arrive around 4 p.m., and I aimed to be out of the house by then. It took a couple of hours, but I managed to transfer all my personal possessions to a rental storage unit. Before packing, I contacted our lawyer and arranged an appointment for that afternoon. Following the transfer of my possessions to a storage facility, I consulted our attorney regarding the commencement of divorce proceedings. Although considering betrayal as the basis, I chose incompatibility instead, retaining the possibility of infidelity allegations if she challenged the divorce. Additionally, I asked him to draft a fresh will, naming my brother as the beneficiary. Next, I visited the bank and transferred half of our savings and checking balance into accounts solely under my name. Then, I contacted my financial advisor for similar transfers on our mutual investment accounts. With a sorrowful spirit, I traveled to my parents' house, carrying my luggage with me. Upon arrival, I found the door open and my mother noticed me first, exclaiming loudly, "Jack, where have you been? Anita has been calling here several times asking for you. Did you tell her about your stay here?" My father then joined us, and I sat down to share all the details with them. They were taken aback when I disclosed Anita's infidelity and the dissolution of our marriage. I asked if I could temporarily stay with them while I found a rented apartment, which they consented to. My estimations appeared to be correct as, at around 6 p.m., while we were about to eat, the doorbell chimed. My father went to answer it, and shortly afterwards, he came back accompanied by Anita, who looked distraught. She inquired why I hadn't responded to her calls, expressing a desire to talk. She pointed out that I had removed all my belongings from the house and believed the message left on my computer would supply the required information. I replied, conveying my apprehension at it being her and suggesting we go somewhere else to discuss. I made it clear that I was no longer her boyfriend and had nothing further to discuss. Divorce proceedings were underway, and any communication could be done through our attorneys. I made clear that the incident in Denver had eliminated any affection I felt towards her, asking her to depart so I could complete my meal. She begged, and I repeated there was nothing left to discuss without addressing the infidelity. I hinted at having proof and planned to speak with her lover Sam tomorrow. She persistently requested a conversation. I advised her to leave as my dinner was getting cold. I suggested she write me an explanation detailing how she could justify breaching her wedding vows. Assuming, as a shrewd lawyer, she could rationalize it all as my fault and still love and respect me, I said this. With a sob, she turned away. Before exiting, she begged again. I bid farewell, and following her departure, while still crying, my parents were left speechless. My mom commented on the severity of my reaction. I countered, revealing the gravity of her actions and my inability to trust her again. I pondered if she desired me to provide her with grandchildren from such an individual. My father proposed that perhaps with the passage of time, my viewpoint might evolve. I countered, expressing skepticism and suggesting we switch topics so I could process my meal. On that particular Monday morning, as I departed home, I felt down about leaving Jack, but envisioned the joy upon my return when we could establish our family. We delayed for this moment to ensure our financial and career stability before embarking on parenthood. Now everything was almost set. The drive to Denver was without incident. I found myself seated next to Sam Harris, our lead negotiator, and we spoke briefly about the forthcoming negotiations and our families. Sam, who had been married for 20 years with 2 teenage children, acknowledged my intention to resign upon pregnancy and expressed his regret at my absence. Sam and I, a negotiating duo since prior to my marriage, shared a relaxed camaraderie. Behind us, the other 2 team members discussed. Upon arriving at the Denver hotel, we booked adjacent rooms, a practice Sam and I had followed for over a decade, initially for late-night strategy sessions. Over time, this arrangement morphed into something else around 10 years ago when our relationship became physical. We rationalized it as a stress relief mechanism following tough talks and believed it didn't constitute infidelity if it supported our professional bonding. After Jack and I got married, I abstained for a while due to guilt. However, during a particularly intense negotiation, Sam suggested resuming our arrangement to alleviate stress, and I hesitantly consented. It became routine again, the excitement of secrecy increasing my sexual desire at home, benefiting Jack and reducing my guilt. On the initial night of this journey, we didn't cross paths as I felt fatigued after dinner. The day after our initial negotiations, I consented to see him later. The following morning, as I booted up my computer, a startling image greeted me on the screen. Sam, seated beside me, swiftly closed the lid, and we carried it to the hallway. He appeared enraged, inquiring about the nature of the content on my desktop. I asserted ignorance, explaining that it hadn't been there when I last used it. Shaken, I suggested rechecking it. Upon reopening it, we both scrutinized the picture, and Sam declared it was me. I questioned how this could be possible, but he insisted, implying that it might have been him beneath me, although my face wasn't visible. I asked if he had ever left the laptop unattended the previous day. He denied it, asserting that it had been with him throughout the journey and in his room while he was in mine. Did you consider if someone possibly entered your room with a hidden camera? He doubted it, claiming the door was closed and presumably locked. I suggested he revisit the hotel to inspect if any unauthorized individuals had access to his room overnight. I promised to tackle the matter from my end and asked him to locate Jack to ascertain his whereabouts last night. He appeared skeptical, arguing it wasn't Jack as they communicated at his parents' house. I inquired whether he called Jack on their family landline. He answered that Jack requested him to use his cell phone instead. Concerned about the predicament, I stated that the situation seemed suspicious since Jack could have been elsewhere during their call. I asked him to contact me if he discovers anything and to act swiftly to address the repercussions of this event. I instructed him to catch a taxi back to the hotel and bid farewell. Overwhelmed by apprehension, I pondered if Jack might have snapped the photo and placed it on my laptop, a sign that our marriage was coming to an end. I needed to rush back to the hotel to gather details. The receptionist arranged a taxi for me, and in 15 minutes I was back, questioning the desk clerk about any access to my suite. He confirmed a Mr. Jack Fillmore had received a card at 9:45 the previous night and returned 30 minutes later. At that instant, I accepted that our marriage was probably over. The person I cherished above all else had vanished. Yet, despite the sorrow, I felt driven to fight for him. Upon entering my suite, I instantly attempted to reach him on his cell and at work. There was no answer on his cell, it had been switched off. I left a significant voicemail which he returned shortly. His work secretary informed me that he was on a business trip to California, due back the following day. In essence, he had embarked on a journey to California and paused en route to surprise me. Overwhelmed by surprise, we both found ourselves in an unexpected situation. Upon phoning his relatives, they hadn't seen him for several days either. I suggested they try reaching him and pass on my contact details. There was no response at home, so I left a message instead. In the solitude of the suite, tears fell as I came to terms with the fact that communication with him was limited without returning home. Consequently, I dialed for the next flight to St. Louis, arranged my belongings, and subsequently informed Sam about the predicament. He remained silent before responding, hinting at the impending possibility of a divorce or something more severe. Drawing attention to our employer's policy against managerial staff fraternization, he underscored the possible risks of both of us being dismissed, which could negatively impact our future employment prospects. Expressing worry about losing Jack, he acknowledged that parting with his family would be equally distressing. In light of these circumstances, he urged me to return to St. Louis and find Jack, encouraging me to try reasoning with him. He mentioned that he had also booked a flight departing at noon, planning to return by 4:30. Due to him, Sam underscored the necessity of locating Jack for a conversation. He informed me he'd keep me updated on the outcome and clarified that he needed to remain there until negotiations were concluded. He reassured me he'd be ready to receive my message. We parted ways. Grabbing my luggage and laptop, I rushed towards the lobby, checked out, and hailed the hotel limo for the airport. On the way back to St. Louis, I yearned for Jack to converse with me. I had to admit it was merely intimacy and held no impact on him. Everything depended on the assumption he'd remain unfeeling about my indiscretion and accept it for what it truly was, merely an insignificant closeness. Upon returning home, everything appeared normal initially. However, upon entering our bedroom and discovering all his belongings missing, I understood he had been aware and left me. I needed to locate him. Following numerous unsuccessful phone calls, I opted to visit his family's residence to determine if he was there or if they knew his whereabouts. He was residing with his family, and the reception I got from him left me feeling sickened by its ruthless insensitivity. He informed me he was in the process of filing for divorce, showed no interest in conversation, and nothing I could say would alter his decision. After sarcastically recommending I write a lengthy letter expressing my perspective, I departed and wept in my car. The family we had envisioned would never materialize. The idea of growing old together and enjoying grandchildren together felt like an unreachable fantasy. From a self-centered perspective, what saddened me even more was the thought that by the time I found another partner, I might be too old to conceive. Eventually, I started the car and returned to our empty house. After a sleepless night filled with visions of Anita and Sam together, I rose early and headed to my parents' home, preparing coffee. Downloaded photos from camera onto laptop with intention to spot Sam, found him reaching towards Anita, but his face wasn't clear. Noticed a tattoo on his right arm, a heart with Marie inside it. Recognized that as Sam's wife's name. Gathered necessary details and left for work, showered, and prepared breakfast with Mom. At work, made CDs of photos and the tattoo enlargement, printed several copies, organized them in a folder, and approached HR department. Met with Phil, explained the images could appear inappropriate, but they were mine and Sam Harris' wife. The images, timestamped Tuesday evening from Sam's hotel suite in Denver during a corporate negotiation trip, showed signs of a breach of contract's anti-fraternization clause. Phil appeared shaken and asked for guidance. I suggested he could fire both individuals involved. I highlighted that this rule had never been enforced previously, querying his certainty about proceeding. I hinted at the potential exposure of the affair and speculated on his marital intentions with Anita. I disclosed that legal proceedings were already in motion by my lawyer, but if Phil opted out, I would sue the company instead. Phil concurred, planning to escalate the issue to the legal team and initiate action. He subsequently urged me to move forward with the next agenda item. I proceeded to brief Evan about the predicament. Horrified by my revelation regarding my wife and Sam Harris upon my request for a week's vacation leave, he granted his approval readily. Before leaving, he commended me on a job well done. My customer in California commended the swift resolution of their issue and suggested I might consider managing the California territory, given the current field engineer's impending retirement due to illness. I expressed my intention to consider it and provide an answer upon returning to work the following week. As I exited Evan's office, Kathy, his secretary, informed me that my wife was looking for me and would return later. I instructed Kathy not to allow my wife to see me under any circumstances, as we were in the process of divorcing and she was involved with Sam Harris. I expected the news to circulate throughout the plant by noon, given Kathy's tendency towards gossip. Back at my desk, I phoned Marie Harris, Sam's wife, whom I had met at company events. Knowing that our shared spousal secrets might cause discomfort for her, I made the call and conveyed the urgency to talk immediately. She consented and gave me her address. I planned to visit them in 15 minutes. Upon reaching their house, a wave of apprehension washed over me as I prepared to reveal the situation to Marie and her family. Despite this unease, I felt that Sam needed to face repercussions and Anita should not shoulder all the fallout alone. Marie welcomed me with an offer of coffee, which I accepted. Choosing to be direct, I disclosed the affair between them, my intentions for a divorce from Anita, and my choice to dismiss both of them from their jobs. I hinted that the information would soon be made public and suggested showing her proof if needed. To my astonishment, Marie showed little response on her face. For years, Marie admitted she had harbored doubts about Sam's faithfulness during business trips, but she refused to accept this possibility. She recognized Sam as a former loving spouse and father. Marie conveyed remorse over our relationships and her own situation. She pondered the potential consequences of Sam losing his job and the struggles he might encounter in finding another high-paying position. In closing, she proposed giving me a collection of photographs if I desired them. Marie appreciated my consent to view the photos, promising to present them when she felt ready. I expressed my inability to overlook the situation given that Anita and I were on the brink of parenthood. I underscored trust and respect as crucial aspects of a relationship, qualities I considered essential for the mother of our unborn children. She acknowledged my stance and thanked me for disclosing it directly, expressing comprehension about not wanting to learn about it from others first. 6 months ago, I started the divorce process. I received a copy of the dissolution agreement for my marriage with Anita today. Since she visited my parents' house, we haven't spoken or seen each other. My attorney handled everything. I gave her the mortgage-heavy house along with the highly financed furniture and decorations to waive any claims against me. I also removed my name from the mortgage, leaving her solely responsible for the payments. Without employment, she was forced to sell her assets at a loss. She tried contesting the divorce, but I warned I would alter the grounds for divorce to infidelity and expose our relationship online if she didn't finalize the proceedings within 48 hours. She complied, thus leaving me free. It seems she wasn't overly attached to me. In due course, she managed to secure another job as a skilled attorney, although it offered fewer perks. Her prior seniority allowed her re-entry into her previous job, but I hear she's managing and dating again. Let's hope her new partner is prepared if she reveals our past and the reasons. Perhaps I should inform him of our divorce and its circumstances. Marie divorced Sam, leaving him financially destitute. Following his termination, he managed to secure another job. However, he's finding it challenging to meet his alimony and child support obligations with the new income. Currently residing in Santa Maria, California, a tranquil coastal town midway between the Bay Area and LA, I find myself strategically positioned to navigate both southern and northern parts of the state. Approximately 4 months ago, I relocated here and now live in an apartment complex inhabited by singles and young couples, most striving to save enough for a house deposit. Housing expenses are steep out here, and substantial funds are required to enter the market. In the same complex resides my steady girlfriend, also divorced. Despite our shared marital history, we're content together, although I anticipate the future given my frequent travels. Trust is crucial in marriage, but I must take action promptly if we aspire to begin a family. Time waits for no one as biological clocks continue ticking.